The Elsa Show with Play Novak. Serving up trending news and conservative views. Brought to you by the Elsa Collection. And Refuge Medical. And now, it's time for the show.
Well, hey there. Were you trying to speak a moment before that show started? Oh, nice of me to call you out if you're going to cough or something.
Nope.
So rude.
Nope.
So messed up. Anyhow, hello, my partner. Hello, friends. How you doing, Clay?
I'm good. How are you? I mean,
yes. Yeah, I am
never a dull
good.
moment, right?
No, there's never a dull moment. I mean, it would be nice if there was a dull moment. I don't know. I guess not for us, because what the hell will we talk about, right? We'll talk about ourselves. We'll talk about life. We'll talk about the weather. All the normal things that normal people talk about. No, that's not what we're here for.
Talk about things other than this stuff?
You know, I can't, there's not a lot of people in my life that I can talk to about this stuff. So it's very this is very cathartic for me.
Well, I'm happy to be your therapist.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Take me down.
All right, folks, we got, what do we got? 5 or 6, 7? I don't know. We're somewhere
6,
in there.
Yeah.
Another good show, and we'll get started right after this.
Hey folks, Clay Novak here, author of the novel Keep Moving, Keep Shooting. So what I've got here is the Boo Boo 2.0 basic first aid kit. This is the one that you throw in your glove box, throw in the trunk of your car, keep in the house. It's got your Band-Aids, antiseptic wipes, those kinds of things for scrapes and cuts, and some, more significant. There is a tourniquet in here. But Boo Boo 2.0, this is the kit that you need all the time. Again, refugemedical.com. You can find it there. Use the discount code KMKS at checkout. Get yourself 10% off. Refuge Medical. Not only buy their equipment, but get their training. Refuge Medical offers training as well.
Ready to refresh your vibe? The Elsa collection has everything from page-turning reads to eye-catching fashion, guaranteed to add a little sunshine to your season. But that's not all. Love a good book? Elsa's got your next favorite read waiting just for you. Don't miss Elsa's Amazon affiliate store, filled with hand-picked beauty treasures, home must-haves, and daily essentials. It's like a personal shopping spree made easy. Make this spring your season. Shop the Elsa collection today and let the fun begin.
Oh my goodness. So, I mean, obviously we have great stuff to talk about because I picked the stuff. So, it's all good. If I picked it, I don't even know what we'd be talking about if I picked them.
Listen, it is literally, a scroll through on Tuesday morning. I'm like that and that and that. There's no science to this, folks. I just picked the things that I think we should talk about.
I love it. I love it. Right off the bat, we're talking about this. And, surprise, surprise, the left is clutching their pearls again. And this time it's, over the Supreme Court having the audacity to, send awful criminals and horrible people back to the country where they came from and came here illegally from. Yeah. Crazy, right?
Yeah. SCOTUS, not that long ago, about 4 years ago, we had a little over 4 years ago, we had a couple of new justices that took a lot of crap, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you remember the confirmation for Bryant and what's his name?
Yeah. Wow. I'm useless to you here.
The two that
I can
President
see his face. Yeah.
Yeah, the two that President Trump put in the
Right.
Supreme Court. They have voted. Amy Coney Bryant has voted favoring, I guess the liberal side of things more often than she's voted conservative. In the decisions.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, and so everybody thought that she was going to be, a Trump plan and a pushover, and just going to go party line and all this other stuff. And the same with, boy, we're terrible. I can't remember this guy's name for the life of me. But anyway,
Monday, but yeah,
right. They thought that both of them were just going to go, and it was just going to be 6-3, 6-3, 6-3, 6-3 on everything. Right. And that is far from the truth. However, with this specifically with the deportations, there has been it's been 5-4 pretty evenly.
Yeah.
But all these MS-13 folks and Trend Agua and all these, get them out of here. And,
exactly. Listen, if people on the left want them to stay so bad, I think they should open their doors to their homes and invite them to come stay with them, right? I mean, if they're that deeply affected by these people being deported, there's a solution, right?
Yeah, listen, we've all been saying that. We've been saying that for, the 4 years of the Biden administration. Everybody defending the open borders and defending illegal immigrants and all that other stuff. But that's some limousine liberal crap right there. None of them are going to open their door, give their spare room or their pool house, to a family or individual illegal immigrants. Do you remember when they hit Martha's Vineyard?
Oh, yeah. Less than 24 hours. Less than 24 hours before they were out. Who sent them over? I mean, I know it was during the Trump administration, but somebody specifically. Oh, DeSantis. Ron DeSantis was the one that. Yeah,
I think DeSantis. It wasn't Texas. It was Florida that sent the Martha's Vineyard. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Brett Kavanaugh, by the way. I had to look it up.
There you go.
It's driving me crazy. I mean, so yes, we love for them to put their money where their mouth is and say, "Oh, I'll protect these people. I'll do this. I'll do that." We would love for them to do that, but they won't. So. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court had to get involved, and they ruled on the side of what is just and right. Let's not say it's on the side of the president. They ruled on the side of what is just and right.
I'm glad you said that, because that's kind of been my thought process here. Would I like to have seen her vote differently? Yeah, of course. But I'd like to give the benefit of the doubt here and say that they are interpreting the law to the best of their ability, and that is what they are basing their vote on, their opinions on. And I feel the need to trust that that's the case, not that she's being a traitor to Trump, because I don't want any of them loyal to Trump or to any. I mean, none of us should want that.
Nope.
And I'm sure you see it too. I see it all over the place, calling her a traitor and a bad choice and all of those things. And you do have to have that moment where you go, hang on a second. Do you want somebody to just be a puppet for whoever's in charge? Because that works both ways. Whoever's next is going to get that same thing going on. So I like to have hope. I don't know if I necessarily have faith in that. We don't put our faith in people. But yeah, my expectation is that this is how she was interpreting the law, and that was why and how she voted the way she did. That's what I think.
And she's been treated horribly. I saw a thing, an AI image where they had her all tatted up with MS-13 tattoos all over her face. And it's like, come on, people. Like, let's roll. You and I. I've been saying it. I hate party line voters. I hate them. It's totally contradictory to what our, the foundation of our republic is about. And nowhere is that more important than in the Supreme Court. For them to just be on, voting on party lines. But what we haven't heard a lot about in the last few months is packing the court, or we haven't heard about forcing retirements and these sorts of things. There's been none of that. No. To try and even the courts out, because by the way, Brett Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Bryant have been interpreting the law and is often been going against the wishes of the president. And you know what? The president says that's okay.
Yes. And I love that he came out and said that. That made me so proud of him in that moment. That is the correct and proper response, and that's the one that should trickle down to all the armchair podcast hosts and critics and real podcast hosts and all of those, anybody really who's commenting on all of this. You don't know. You're not sitting in there behind those closed doors, and you're certainly not sitting there poring over all of these documents and the Constitution and weighing all of these things. Like, you're not doing it. So maybe reserve the fire there for a minute.
Yeah. And so here, you hit it. Their clerks are like triple overtime right now because of all of these, and simple, there's a lot of terms floating around out there. Radical judges, all these, the high-end appointed judges, appeals judges who are putting, injunctions on basically everything President Trump does. Yeah. We talked last week about the guy who was quote unquote erroneously or wrongfully deported. And then you had that lower level judge jumped in and said, you have to bring him back. And I think it was Kavanaugh who jumped in and said, nope, leave him. But like that, to me, SCOTUS has so many other things to worry about than overruling stupidity at the lower levels below them. And listen, landmark cases, big stuff, constitutional law, all of that stuff is super, super important. They're going to get consumed, and their offices are going to get consumed by
Right.
all of this stuff below them.
Mhm.
They just ruled on the 16,000 probationary employees. Yes, it was
Mhm.
okay for the president to fire them. Why
Right.
does that have to go to the Supreme Court?
Yeah,
Like,
it's kind of crazy. And, my guess would be that this is obviously something, to some degree deliberate. Keep them tied up, keep them busy,
yeah,
keep them, scattered, basically, And it's a tough call because, these activist judges do need to be put in their place. They are acting out of the scope of their right to act. So it does have to be something. It's just, somebody's got to draw the line somewhere, right?
yeah, and again, folks, I am not saying that this is only wrong because it's happening to President Trump.
Right.
And it happened with conservative judges against President Biden. Okay.
Mhm.
We have a checks and balance system, but no single appointed judge should have the power to stop what the president is doing. There
Mhm.
are, and a lot of this has to do with the fact that our bureaucracy moves so slow.
Yeah.
But the presidents in general have been using and abusing executive orders,
Mhm.
and so they put those in place, and then they take action, and then you've got judges who weigh in, and then there's appeals, and then and it's like, and we're at the point where you literally have singular judges who stop the president.
Mhm.
That's not the way this is supposed to work.
Right.
But there's a lot of steps in here that are messed up, right? It's
Yeah.
overuse of the executive order. It's all of those things. And I think personally, the end state of Doge in the reduction of the size of our federal government is
Mhm.
going to do nothing but make it more efficient, and it's going to cut a lot of this crap out of the way. I wish we could truthfully, cut the size of Congress, because
Right.
that's where part of the problem is.
Yeah.
I know that's blasphemy because the Constitution is what it is, and I believe that it is one of the perfect documents, but that's where the hangups are,
Right.
and I know it's by design.
You can only imagine that there's such a deliberateness behind the tying up of everything so that President Trump can't get done the things that he wants to do. I mean, that's obviously the whole purpose behind everything that goes on behind the scenes. And of course, why don't they want this to happen? Because they like having their pockets lined, and they like, operating in the dark and getting away with everything they've gotten away with, because there's no, you can say all day that it's simply because they hate Trump. And of course they do. And that is part of it. But there's so much more at stake than just orange man bad. These are people that are about to lose a lot of money, a lot of power, and they don't like that. That makes them mad, because if anybody actually stopped, and I mean, not talking about them, I'm talking about the minions, basically the people that march around, with their little signs and their angry voices. If they actually stopped for a minute and thought about what's actually happening, that, not only is the Trump administration trying to give back the states, therefore the people, back their power where it belongs, and decision making, which is, in their minds, that's what they're arguing for. But they're technically arguing for more big government, federal government involved in their lives, making decisions for them. Like, the stupidity of what they are actually arguing against is constantly mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, I mean, there's lists of the things that they're arguing against, but
Mhm.
at the root of it all, for me, my opinion is it's what facilitates all of it is big gov.
Right.
Right? Because they want a nanny state. They
Mhm.
want government control. They want big gov. They want decisions made for them. They don't, and at the upper echelons, they don't trust Americans to make decisions for
Mhm.
themselves. They don't trust, they think this is there's 50 ways, there are 50 examples of this, and you can talk voter ID law is the perfect one. There's
Yes.
literally no reason, the made up reason is, poor people can't, they have such a hard time getting identification. So fix the identification process.
Right. Right.
Like, why
Yeah.
don't you've got, every 2 years we have an election day. How about for those 2 years in between elections, you
Mhm.
work to fix the identification process?
Yeah, if that was the real problem that they really, well, if that
Right.
was what they really believed to be the problem, there's your
Right.
solution. And that is so par for the course of what they do. They pick out or create problems, never a solution. Never, ever will you see a solution to a problem come from these people. They don't want the problem solved. It's like, it really is that simple. Like if you took it down to bare bones, right? If the problems are solved, if the people are self-sufficient, if they don't need government to give them their cell phone or their, groceries or any of those things, they're out of a job. That's it.
And listen, it's big pharma. Big pharma treats people, they don't care anybody. It's the same thing, right? It's the same mentality, and government dependency is what they want.
Yeah.
Government dependency is what, and that's why there was all of the illegal immigration, which is what SCOTUS just flipped over, right? As we can start or continue to deport all these people. But it was all about, and they've readily admitted it now. Like it's come out a couple of times now that the entire purpose behind that was to bring them to the United States to overload, districts and get enough voters in to keep Democrats in office. That's all it was. We all knew that's what it was, but now it's been really kind of out there. And so thankfully we're fixing those kinds of things and, shrinking the government with Doge, and hopefully we can we'll never get rid of the nanny state mentality, but hopefully we can at least reduce the nanny state to a manageable level.
Yeah, I just think that, more people need to educate themselves and be aware of, the expenses, that the money that's going out to, God knows where. I think there was they just put it out there, a graph, the numbers of illegal aliens collecting Social Security, right? Did you see that?
No.
It's insane. I'll try and find it. If I find it, I'll put it up there and everything. But the numbers are wild. It's just wild.
Listen, there's plenty of examples. Our new favorite idiot, Jasmine Crockett.
Oh.
Right? See this? Supposedly her grandmother's been dead for over 10 years and they just forgot to tell the Social Security office and have been cashing checks.
No, I did not see that.
I've seen it. Listen, that was one of those that initially when I saw it, I was like, this is crap. It's bogus. It's whatever. But I've seen it in enough places and enough different sources that there is some validity to it.
Wow.
So, it's everywhere. Like that kind of stuff's everywhere. And we just got to, Doge just got to keep digging. And I'm all for it.
Yeah, same here. And they need to keep exposing it. At some point, these people have to actually look at it. Although, I've seen people plenty of times, you hand them, and I know you've seen it too. We've all seen it. You hand them facts, documented, verifiable facts, and they're like, nope, don't want to hear it. Orange man bad. End of story. And it's like, I don't know how much more, I guess you don't care about your money. I guess you don't care about your home. That's what they like to say to us, right? Yeah. I guess you don't care about women. I guess you don't care about trans people suicide rates. Like that's what they try and guilt. So maybe if we turn that around a little bit. And
they just had a whole day of protests about it, Elsa.
What? They did?
Yeah, right.
I hadn't heard a thing about it.
So if someone can tell me, because I saw probably a dozen different signs, like topics. Not just different signs, different topics on different signs, right? For hands off. Now, you think initially hands off would be the hands off my body, women's, it would be an abortion rally, whatever.
Right.
It was so broad beyond that. It was hands off education. It was hands off. It was everything hands off of everything, which is amazing because that's libertarian.
Right.
Like that. Now they're protesting as libertarians. They want less government impact on their lives, which I think is what we've all been trying to work towards, right?
Yeah. It's like, okay, thank you. That's literally what we've been saying. Thank you for agreeing with us angrily. It's so, you have to laugh. Like you have to laugh at this. It's too absurd to even believe. Like, okay, so what was one of them? Hands off our kids. Yeah, we agree with you. Get your hands off our kids. Teach them reading and math. Take out gender studies. Like, leave our kids the hell alone. How about that? Look, yay, we all agree. So exciting. Hands off our bodies or protect women. Like, which one is it? I don't even know. We can agree with that too. Get men out of women's locker rooms. How about that? Protect them. Let's, common sense. It sounds like we're agreeing. It's about time.
Again, I honestly don't know
Yeah.
what, if there is a consistent thread through all of these. I don't understand what it is, because it seems like there's just a big label plastered on it, and
Yeah.
really what it is anti-Trump.
Yes.
Okay, fine. If that's what it is, just call it that.
Just call it that. That's fine.
Let's not make it something it's not.
Right.
So, and it happened, I think all 50 states. Was
Mhm.
it, did it happen? Did it
So.
hit it all? I think it hit them all.
I'm not even sure, to tell you the truth. I mean, quite a few. I know, there's so much side stuff that goes on, people getting caught. Like somebody shared what they claim to be a video of, this massive, and I'm not saying that they weren't big, but basically it looked like, I don't even know. Well, it looked like a Trump rally is what it looked like, because there were so many people. And then somebody, did like a reverse AI lookup on it. And they're like, yeah, nice try. That's from, whatever,
Yes.
something else. So a lot of those to make it look bigger. A lot of videos of, I think that Laura Loomer, I think is her name, has video of them busing protesters in with their pre-made signs and their corporate sponsors and all of that stuff. There's a video I saw of a guy when he was being interviewed. They're like, well, what are you angry about? what hands off? And he pulls out his piece of paper and he's like, oh, we are angry because and he's like, you can't just, you don't know why you're angry. You got to read why you're angry. Funny.
Yeah, there's I saw another one. I saw those. The reverse AI lookup I thought was amazing. That was perfect. Like, again, we're finding great uses for AI. That was one of them. I know, some of, like, there was a couple of them that were like were it parades for like sporting events, like those kinds of, so yes, there was a lot of fabrication to that. Yes, there was a lot of like, take the photo from a certain angle, you get the AOC effect, where it's like, oh my God, look at all these people. And actually it's like 14.
Right.
But I did see another thing. There was a lady who was like, okay, I'm gonna jump in on this. She's a conservative, but she's like, I'm just gonna pretend that I'm a protester. And so through a contact or two, she kind of got some information about these protests, about the the hands off marches or whatever they were. And so she followed some instructions, and it was like, okay, show up, don't wear anything red. Right. So there was guidance, right?
Yeah.
No red hats, but really nothing red. Blah. So she's like, okay, so I just dressed in black top and bottom.
Right.
And they're like, okay, so when you get there at this corner, find a lady. If there's a lady there with blue hair and a nose ring, and she's like, well, I figured everybody was going to have blue hair and a nose ring. I was
just going to say surprise.
Right. And she goes, but the lady was particularly easy to find. Yeah. So, the lady said, I brought my own sign, and she said it was very innocuous. It was, I think, hands off our education or something like that. And then, so the lady there with the blue hair and the nose ring was like, okay, you need to go to this location, you need to walk this path. And then at the end, see this person and you'll get paid. Wow. So there is, right. There was some truth. We're starting to get some traction on what we all, again, knew to be true back on 2020, back in the Antifa stuff. That these are paid protesters, right? And people will do anything for a buck. So, this is, again, if it was an anti-Trump protest, just let it be an anti-Trump protest.
Right.
Why put another name on it?
And, again, it's preying on these people are preying on, because there were quite a few people, we don't want to minimize that there were people there of their own volition because they really believe in, their cause of the moment. You see the videos of them too, absolutely out of their minds, hysterical, yelling and shaking their fists and waving their signs, and the mental illness oozing off of them. And these are the people I really feel for them, because their brains, their minds are so warped. They are so angry, and they don't even understand why they're angry. Like, it's scary to watch. That's the part to me that's scary to watch, that they have been so unbelievably brainwashed into this mentality, this rage mentality. And they just keep feeding the mental illness and loving it, enjoying it, and, throwing a few bucks at them, whatever that means. And I think I also heard, I don't know if you heard this, that not necessarily all the protests, but there was a particular one where apparently, like, it hit a certain time of the day, and like everybody just packed up and left. like this massive cord. Like, yep, they just clocked out. Chunk, chunk.
Went down the back of the dinosaur.
Yep.
Jumped in their car, pedaled away. Yeah.
Exactly. That was I'm ready to sing the Flintstones theme right now.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I have no doubt.
Yeah.
I have no doubt whatsoever. You know, I've seen a few clips of, you know, people walking and filming.
Yes.
You know, and then of course somebody in a mask, always somebody in a mask, you know, comes up to him and says, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" And it's like, "Oh, I'm just filming," you know, and then all of a sudden they get shepherded away from the protests,
Yeah.
you know, kind of thing, which is always funny. You know, in my younger days, I would have been that person walking around with a red hat on, you know, just to antagonize people.
Yes.
But you're right. The level of mental illness and then the, you know, commensurate level of violence associated is way out of control.
Right.
If you walked anywhere near one of those things with a MAGA hat on, you are risking bodily harm.
You're absolutely. There was just you know, and that is their go-to. Physical violence is their go-to, because, and you see it over and over again. There was just a young woman, a pro-life advocate, or I don't know if she has a podcast. She must. And she was interviewing people on the street, and a woman came up, and they were having a, you know, heated exchange, and the woman just couldn't take it anymore, and she sucker punched her. She just popped her right in the face. Did you see that one?
There was actually two of them, so I don't know which one you're talking about. There was two of them, and it was I think in both cases it was abortion was the you know, the issue, and it literally was. So somebody was like, "Well, wait a minute," you know, and they challenged some of the, you know, the lies associated, you know, they've been associated for decades with the entire argument, and literally because they couldn't, you know, these women couldn't defend against, you know, logic, and their reflex was closed fist, boom, punch the lady right in the face.
Yeah. That is time and again, that is the go-to. And, you know, and this is why we say all the time, not so that kind of confrontation happens, but this is why we talk about, we being people on the right, talk about facts, knowing your facts, being able to argue any topic, anything that they might come at you with their feelings, and ask them to counter it, ask them to counter the facts. Like, here is a fact. Like, I understand your feelings. Like, I have feelings too. You know, I mean, we all have feelings, but they don't make things true. Just because you feel something doesn't make it true. Facts make things true, and they can't do it. They can't do it. So they go straight to rage, and they can't do it because they haven't been taught how to do it. These are people that have come through, you know, these, and I'm kind of bashing public school system, but I'm more bashing on the college level, on the university level, because that's where it really, I think, manifests the most. That's just the breeding ground. Like, they have truly completely gotten them away from the parents, the influence of the parents, and now the indoctrination is just going to go, we're going hard and full force at it. And you see so many times, like, people, girls in particular, it seems like girls in particular, and there's whole reasoning behind that. You see those, I'm sure you've seen them, those like first day of college pictures, and they just look fresh faced and ready to take on this next adventure in life. And then you see them at the end of their college, or maybe in the middle of their college experience, and they are a shell of themselves. You know, they've chopped off all their hair. Now they think they're a boy. They've got everything pierced, and their hair, whatever's left of it, is blue. And it's like, oh, how can we not connect the dots here? Like, the dots are very easy to connect. But
all you have to do is look at the evolution of Rachel Maddow.
Oh my goodness. That's a great example.
All you got to do.
Wow.
Yeah. Beautiful young lady, blonde hair. Truthfully, doesn't even look like what we see today.
So crazy to me.
But as a young girl, I think probably like the earliest picture you normally get is maybe like end of high school, or maybe freshman year, early in college. So she's in the 18, 19-ish range. And then the evolution of what happens to her physically, right? Exactly what you're talking about. But you know, it does start in high school. You know, you have teachers who are bullies. You have teachers who have an agenda. And then in the classroom, it becomes very, you know, kids who want to speak out, they get shunned and shut down.
And they get physically attacked as well.
And they do. And then when it gets to college, you know, but then they still have parents to stick up for them. Right. And then, but you're right, they get to college and they're kind of on their own. And, I totally disagree with the idea of a college professor throwing you out of class because you're a paying customer.
Right.
And listen, I got thrown out of class as a freshman in a math class because we had a teacher who literally for the first 7 classes taught the exact same problem. Like he didn't even change the numbers in the problem. Like,
wow.
Yeah. So, and like the 7th time hearing this, like I'm sitting next to this girl and we just start talking because we've seen this 6 times already.
Right.
And he turned around and, he pointed me out. What are you talking about? Stop talking to class. I was like, you've taught us this 7, and he threw me out of class.
Wow.
And I was like, so like as a paying customer, I'm totally opposed to that at the collegiate level, but you're right. It totally destroys the idea of discourse. Grown up, rational discussion without emotion, without animation, that a teacher, an instructor, a professor should sit back and moderate and not participate in. Right. And make sure that both sides are being expressed civilly with, intent and intention. And they moderate that. But that's not being done. So, and I get it. People misunderstand the difference between opinion and if you're stating your opinion as fact. Right. I have opinions on a lot of things. I post them all the time. People come after me for my opinion and they're like, prove that. And I'm like, I don't have to. It's my opinion. Right. Well, such and such and such and such. Prove it. I'm like, I don't have to prove it. It's my opinion. Right. That's what you and I do. We're pundits. Right. And we speak. We're not news reporters. We've said this 1,000 times on this show. But people mistake that. And that's part of the problem as well. So
yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. And that's so true. We can state a fact about something and then discuss our opinion on it. Like Amy Barrett Cohen, there's fact and then there's opinion. And like you said, we can have whatever opinion on it that we want. And you being the viewer or listener, whichever the case is, you can disagree with it. It's all good. I've never had a time where I've felt like, I'm going to say these things and everyone has to agree with me. Like, can you imagine, imagine for a moment having that mindset? Like, I can't even wrap my brain around being that arrogant, first of all, that I would think that my opinion is the only right one. Like, I'm fine with saying I could have something wrong. I could have a lot of things wrong. And I don't mind listening to other perspectives. You give me, back up your argument if you want to. And, and if I want to, I'll back up mine, but no requirement to. We're just not.
No, I don't work for you.
No. Yeah. I love when people say that in comment sections, right? Show me your facts. Show me the article you got that from. Dude, do your own research.
Yeah.
I'm not your mom.
And again, I owe you nothing.
Exactly.
If I'm expressing my opinion, I owe you. And unfortunately, kind of where we started all this is you get into a violent response when you don't give them what they want. Yeah. When you disagree, you provide an opposing opinion, or you don't, abide by their wishes. That's what you get as a violent response. Right. Like these ladies that we were talking about. Yeah. And if unfortunately, going back to the idea of walking with a red hat in the middle of these, hands-off protests, you're gonna get messed up because that is the reflex now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very different reflex and response when the shoe is on the other foot.
Oh, of course.
Very different.
Yeah, mostly peaceful protests. You remember those?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. My favorite was always that one with the riots and I don't know if it was a man or woman reporter saying that the mostly peaceful and literally behind them burning down like flames, shooting out smoke and people running back and forth with giant TVs on their shoulder, mostly peaceful. Okay. We believe that.
And listen, there's plenty nowadays that there's a visceral reaction to, and the ever evolving one is, is the tariffs.
Yeah.
And I am far from an economist,
Same.
But I understand common sense. I do understand the economy. I am not a deep studied economist.
Right.
So I guess, the question is, I'll ask you first. Mm-hmm. How do you think this is going? I mean, this is President Trump's brain trust. This is his baby. What do you think?
Yeah. So, I've been for it all along, simply on the premise of why are we getting taken advantage of the way that we are from these other countries? This seems like a matter of course. And yes, it's scary to a degree. We're talking about our money. We're talking about how we spend on things. I get all of that, but at the same time, there has to come a point where you actually literally do put America first. And if that means, buying American, getting companies to come back here that have left and investing in America, I'm willing to take the hit short term, and wait it out. And I'm even less than you involved in understanding all of that stuff. Like I actually recoil from it, that I don't even I'd like to be like, the old school foreigners that used to stick money under the mattress. You know what I mean? Like if it was up to me, that's how I would live. Like if I can't see it in my hand, it doesn't exist. Like that's how old school I would prefer to be. I'm not a risk taker financially. None of it. I want zero to do with any of it. I just like to, I get a little black and white with it. I like what feels like common sense to me. And this feels like common sense to me. And, and I think I'm probably kind of right here, because I think the number is up to like 75 countries now want to come to the table and talk to President Trump. And, and he's been very like, just hang tight, folks, hang tight, just hunker down for a minute. And I think major people like Dave Ramsey, I think Suze Orman are all saying the same thing. They're like, calm down. It's going to be fine. This is not the first time that the market has fluctuated where we've had drops, and we've had worse ones than this. And the minute he says, I think it was today, it jumped up again because he put it out there that these countries want to come to the table and have a conversation now. China, of course, is the big one. And I got, no pun intended, but I got my money on Trump on this.
Yeah. And that's, me, I'm not a Crenshaw fan. He said the same thing. Don't bet against President Trump. Mm-hmm. So today, Crenshaw supports Trump. So note that
today.
By the way, Wednesday, we're a little early today.
Yes.
We were 3:30 East Coast time.
Right.
Wednesday, a little earlier than normal, but, the tariffs, you're right. There's a level of fairness associated with this, right?
Yeah.
We get tariffs imposed on us, and we don't reciprocate with other nations, right? There's not a lot of fairness there,
right?
Because we've allowed it to happen, or it's been a tool of diplomacy in the past, which that's what part of this is. That's what people lose sight of. They think this is a completely financial decision, and it's not. In some cases it is, but in most cases, this is about diplomacy. And this is about a message to, the EU specifically. It's a message to China. It's a message to others out there that we aren't going to be taken advantage of financially or otherwise.
Right.
So, I am on board with that. I am on board with the fact that the market has always recovered. Okay. Every single time the market has come back. What I hate the most about this is the media and, people who don't listen. Only 8% of the United States is invested in the stock market. Okay, so let's not turn this into this, like the whole world is ending for our entire population, because it's not. But, you only lose money on the stock market if you sell below what you bought it at. Right. And that's why all of these economists and the president are saying, just wait.
Yeah.
Okay.
Settle down. Hang on.
Oh, by the way, if you have the ability, and they've all come out, including the president, have all come out and said this.
I know
this is not a rich person's secret. This is reality. If you have the means to buy right now, buy.
Right.
Because it's low right now. They acknowledge that. They knew this was coming, right?
Yeah.
So invest now if you have the ability, right? And then the market's going to rebound and it's going to increase your value. But everybody who keeps saying, oh, he's lost people thousands of dollars in their retirement. Oh, tens of thousands of dollars. Only if they panicked.
I was just going to say, only if they panicked, right?
Only if they panicked and sold, right?
And here's my favorite thing right now about President Trump and his level of consistency on who he is and who he says he is and how he feels about things. He has been talking about this for decades.
Oh, yeah.
Decades that we're getting taken advantage of, and how he would do it differently and what he would do. And, I'm so he's had this plan for a very, very long time, even if it was just a dream and an idea at one point to see this come to fruition. So this isn't just he woke up one morning and said, I'm going to slap some tariffs on people. Like, shut up, people. That's not the case.
And his theory in all of this is that we go back to pre-income tax.
Yes.
That all of these tariffs on incoming goods pay to run our government.
Yes.
We don't have to have federal income tax, or we have an extremely low income tax for everyone, right? And listen, there are people that are going to be angry about that. They're always going to say rich people should pay, to fund poor people, whatever. But the reality is that this is tied together in the president's brain. Tariffs are not just a diplomatic tool. They're not just an economic tool to bring business back to the United States. They're also a tool to pay for our government, the operation of our government, to relieve that burden from the average citizen.
And who could possibly not agree at this point that we aren't taxed to death? We are so taxed to death. Like, probably the biggest reason why I would say everybody just settle down and give it a hot damn minute to see how this is going to play out, because I think we're going to win on this.
Yeah, our founding fathers would have been burning stuff by now.
Absolutely.
With the amount of taxes that we're paying.
No question about it. Yeah, no question about it.
Washington, D.C. would have looked like Southern California. Like, it would have been lit. To the ground, 200 years ago. So, the tariffs, I think, again, does it on paper look, a little bad right now? Sure, it does.
Sure.
Okay. Right.
Yep.
We're in this trade war with China. I think just before we started recording, it bumped up again. President, he's like a guy at an auction. Like, you're going to go 84. I'm going 125. You know what I mean? And that's China. But you're right. There's been 75-ish at this point countries who've said, hey, let's talk about this. Right. Yeah. And good. But you've got, the other side of this is bringing all of this industry capability back to the United States. Yeah. And good. Right. So I think, the short-sighted folks are panicked. I think those with patience and who've been through these things before at least have an understanding. They know to play the long game, and it's all going to turn out. I have faith that it is going to turn out the way the president, has planned it. The outlier is China. And I don't think they really care about the economic impact. Yeah. So many assets that it doesn't even matter to them. We could probably tariff them for 400%, and they wouldn't care. I mean, they would be upset, but the money wouldn't matter. They pay the tariffs, but they, it would just turn into a pissing contest. So, but I think everything else, including the EU, they're all going to come around. I did see an interesting one. A young lady, English. Yeah, she's English. She predicted that these tariffs will be the end of the EU.
Interesting.
Obviously the Brits and Brexit and all that stuff, they've had their day, but she foresees this to be a point of argument within the EU, where many member nations are going to go, let's go negotiate. And then you'll have a number that will be of the opposite mindset. And it has the potential to over financial decisions, break the EU apart over these tariffs.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Never thought of that one.
No, I definitely would have. I can tell you that right now. I definitely would have never even thought of it.
Yeah.
Fascinating stuff. So, I mean, obviously we're going to keep watching that and see what happens. And I really hope to have one of our favorite I told you so moments. I would really like to have that. So President Trump, if you could get on that and give us the I told you so moment, we would much appreciate. Oh my goodness. What are we moving on to next, Clay? Oh, this is so heartbreaking. I just, as a parent whose kid played sports, I know you can relate to that as well. This is not something you could ever imagine happening. It is so senseless. And then more senselessness after is the public reaction, right? What's going on, that it's politicized, that it's all of the things. I'm a little bit speechless, Clay. I'm just so sad by this.
So for those of you that aren't tracking Texas high school track meet, and I ran for 4 years in high school, and I can tell you they are, for families, the most boring thing is high school sporting event. Right? For the minute, 2 minutes, 4 minutes, whatever that your kid is running.
Yeah, that's it.
The other 9 hours that these things take are like paint drying. So truthfully, a lot of parents, a lot of family members, they'll watch their child compete, they'll leave. right? Because
Right.
again, it's a
full
pretty
day thing,
painful to sit around. It is what it is. So in this case, a young male white athlete was sitting in the bleachers at a track meet.
Yep.
And his name escapes me, but a young male black athlete,
Austin Metcalf, I think.
Austin Metcalf, the young male black athlete, and I only remember his name because his name is Carmelo Anthony, which would give the former NBA player, but his name is spelled with a K if I remember correctly. So Carmelo Anthony, for whatever reason, basically says to this kid, he says, "Hey, I'm sitting there, you're in my seat, or you need to move over, or whatever." And it was like, a minor altercation over a seat in the bleachers.
Yeah.
And Carmelo Anthony goes and he gets a knife and he stabs this kid to death right there in the bleachers.
Yeah.
And he dies over a seat in the bleachers. Like, this is a stupid level of violence over absolutely nothing. Right. And I think that this goes back to the youth of America not comprehending their actions for a number of reasons. But the reaction by the public is what's truly disgusting about this entire thing.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. It's so disheartening. It's so predictable. Maybe that's the part that frustrates me the most. It's like, it's so predictable.
Yep.
There's one side, calling it a race issue and screaming about, not screaming, but, basically saying, oh, if the shoe was on the other foot, this would be talked about. And they're not wrong on that, by the way. The media would be talking about this to no end. And the flip side of that is they're saying that this kid, Carmelo, was being bullied and blah, blah, blah. And now they've got a GoFundMe for him. And it's raised, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And there's this side and that side. And everybody's, just arguing over this, I'm trying not to say the word, this BS of all of it. And there may be parts where, both sides are right about what they're saying and what their perception is of what happened. But it doesn't change the fact that a family has just horrifically lost their son in one of the most senseless acts that you could possibly have happen to your child, to your family. I think he died in his twin brother's arms. I don't know. Right. That makes me so ill that poor boy is going to live with that memory for the rest of his life.
That family is destroyed.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, for this kid, Carmelo Anthony, he just ruined his life. His life is potentially, essentially over in a very different way, of course. I mean, he certainly has, life that he can live. So much is happening with that right now that I think reflects so poorly on us as a people, right?
So the GoFundMe was up over 600,000.
Wow.
But that was for Carmelo Anthony's defense, folks.
Yes.
So that's what was being raised. I heard today, like about an hour or so before we went on, that GoFundMe has been shut down.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know if that's true or not. I didn't have a chance to confirm it.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting move by GoFundMe if it's been shut down.
Because they're usually
well, they're usually like, as long as you're not endorsing criminal activity or participating in criminal activity, they're like, hey, whatever.
Right.
And so on the surface of this, that's not what this is. And again, folks, I have not had the ability to confirm that, but I did hear that. So there was, but the reaction by society that says, hundreds of thousands of dollars for his defense for killing another child over a seat in the bleachers. Listen, you can say bullying all you want. Listen, you can claim racism all you want.
Right.
But unless there was a violent act that precipitated this, that initiated this, that, Metcalf started, that Carmelo Anthony was in fear for his life, which does not appear to be the case.
It does not appear to be the case.
There is no excuse. You will never convince me that is a reasonable response to any of this, to get a knife out of your bag and stab a kid to death.
Yeah.
And the reaction by that many people to donate that much money to defend this young man on the premise that this is a racial incident, which we have no validation.
None whatsoever. And I'll tell you what, that's the biggest reason I have not discussed this on any of my platforms at all. I haven't even shared the article. I haven't given an opinion on it. again, and you and I have talked about this many times over many different topics, cases, whatever the case is, that I'm not going to do it. I don't want to speculate. I don't know. So I'll, if and when the actual facts, that our favorite word again, there it is again, facts come out, then I will be able to have a bigger opinion on this. Right now, I'm viewing it as just a horrific tragedy. I do find it appalling. I agree with you. I do find it appalling how many people are, or were, I guess, donating to this GoFundMe on that premise. It's absurd because we don't know, and that being the point, that we don't know at this point. We know what people are saying, but we don't know what's accurate and true. And they're basically trying to George Floyd him. They, before you know it, they're going to be trying to get a statue put up of this kid, and he's their poster boy of the moment of what they will call oppression, bullying, oppression, race inequality. This is clearly where they're going with all of this. And I would say shame on them, and shame on anyone who is taking a situation and creating their own narrative about it and running with it. Right.
Yeah. And this harkens back to the Daniel Penny. Right.
Right.
Right. So he was, we know we knew a few things before the trial. Right. Mm-hmm. We knew he was on the train. We knew he was a former Marine. We knew that he was white. We knew that the victim was black. Mm-hmm. We knew that the victim had, I shouldn't say victim, because that's not what that was. That's,
right.
The man who died on the train.
Yeah. It's only bad decisions. Yeah.
Right. Was, had mental health issues. He had a criminal record. He was, and by all accounts, he was intimidating and scaring people on the train. Mm-hmm. People just took that all over the place. And Penny got, he got attacked and he got
vilified
he was, criminalized and all of these things. And now we've got essentially, and the victim, which is what was being called on the train, the man who died, like he was a victim. And now we have roles and races are reversed, right? Yeah. So now you have a young black man who attacked a young white man, right? And who, by all accounts, there was no threat of violence. There was no, but we don't know the facts. But already people are predetermining based on headlines. Yeah. And let's be honest, skin color, which side they are voting on this issue, on this incident, before anything else comes out. I mean, this was within hours. People were donating money to this, and they don't even know what happened.
Nope, they don't care. All they know is that it was a white person versus a black person, and so that is an automatic. Doesn't matter who's that. Doesn't matter. None of it matters. Nope. Just white versus black. And of course the media is like, foaming at the mouth because, oh, good. Now we have a concrete thing to be making everyone divisive over and fighting over and hating each other. And this is the part that I am so beyond sick and tired. I'm so sick and tired of the media manipulation of everyone. Like I cannot even take it anymore, Clay. And I can't take the gullibility and the willingness to be led like stupid sheep and falling into this whole, us versus them narrative. And, but here we are again. It's only going to get bigger. It's only going to get uglier. And then when all the facts come out and it doesn't go the way that they think it does, it's just going to pretend like it never happened. And they'll drop this kid like a sack of potatoes. Because
that kid, listen, if that young man goes to jail, you will never hear another word about him again.
Nope.
Never. Nope. For all the people that are supporting him right now and all this other stuff, you will never hear another word about that young man again. He is being exploited for who he is and for what happened by, a lot of people, including the media. And folks, if you don't think that you're being manipulated by the media, let me share a statistic with you. The View, everybody's favorite group of idiots, right? They have been for this calendar year, right? And we are at April 9th today, right? This calendar year, they have had 63 guests on their show so far this calendar year. Not a single conservative, not
this many.
One.
Right.
So if you don't think that the media is manipulating you by limiting exposure, having good, and listen, I get it. It's an entertainment show, but they discuss politics ad
All the
nauseum
time.
every day,
All the time.
right? But it is all
Inaccurately, stupidly, but all the time.
it's all one-sided.
Mhm.
You are only getting their side. 63-0, right?
Mhm.
63-0. That's what you're getting. So if you think you're not, the media itself, oh, by the way, ABC, guilty, owned by Disney. If you think you're not being manipulated, there's proof. That is undeniable proof. That is that media outlet, specifically that show, is one-sided.
Yeah.
It's not an accident, folks. 63-0 is not an accident.
No.
Okay.
No, that is.
If it was 63-1, I would believe the one is an accident.
Right. Yeah,
Right?
it's very true. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's, again, it constantly blows my mind that show is on the air still, that anybody actually watches it, aside from using it as fodder for, jokes and
Babylon Bee.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, people watch it in earnest. They think that these ladies are smart and that they have witty commentary. Like I need to meet these people because I want to take them to see if they have a brain tumor or something that makes them believe such silly things. But yeah, I mean, that's a great example of what is happening in mainstream, what they call it, somebody called it the alphabet media. I like that. The alphabet media. This is what they do. I mean, I can't beg people enough to watch things that you don't agree with. Watch things that have a different perspective, a different viewpoint. I mean, to find something, I don't know what's neutral anymore. I mean, if neutral exists, I don't know it. I don't know any of I can't even recommend a news source for you that is truly unbiased. Does it exist, Clay? I don't even know.
I think the only thing that I have found so far, I think is it 1440, 440 nightly news. So I catch it on WGN. The old Chicago station.
Mm-hmm.
So they do have a nightly news that is, to me, about the closest thing you can get to they very little editorializing.
Mm-hmm.
And it surprised me because I caught it one night and I was like I felt like I was in like 1985 again. I was like, what is this? And it literally is. It is a lot of reporting and it's a lot of facts. It is some analysis, but it is very little editorializing. I think it's called 1440. Or 440 nightly news, something like that. But they're pretty good. But other than that, there's nothing out there.
Yeah.
And listen, folks, Fox is biased too.
Absolutely.
They are.
No question.
Yeah. I know Gutfeld rules nighttime TV. I know he does. I enjoy bits and pieces of Gutfeld. I love Tariffs. Kat Timpf is great. All the best to her. I hope she's recovering well. For those of you that don't know, she had the baby, got diagnosed right before with breast cancer, double mastectomy, brave woman. I hope she's recovering. But I watch it for the funny because I'm not an idiot, right? Gutfeld is not news, people.
No.
And that's what we've all got to do a better job of understanding. And like you said, find other stuff.
Find other stuff. Watch things that you disagree with. Just get different. Listen, I have become. I'm tattletaling on myself here. I have become a fan of ChatGPT. People are going to yell at me in the comments. They're going to be mad at me, and I understand that. But if you know how to give it the prompt, then you can get some really great information. One of the things you can actually use ChatGPT for is to research these things for you. Find out, put it in there, just say. And I know a lot of people are going to be, they're hardline. They're like, nope, not using it. Don't want anything to do with it. I'm more concerned about getting a rounded picture of what's happening in the world. And just to be able, just so I can talk about it at least a little bit and not say stupid things. I try really hard not to say stupid things. Doesn't mean I'm going to accomplish that goal all the time, but I just feel better at the end of the day when I'm not dwelling on, wow, I was so totally wrong on that, because I'll dwell on it for a year. But oh my goodness, just question everything, right? And we certainly would tell you, don't go by everything that we say. Don't take what I say as,
Absolutely not.
Please don't. My goodness.
Listen, the only person who's upset that you're using Chat GPT is Sarah Connor. Terminator movies. That's it. Everybody else
the only one, right? I think everybody else is using it too.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of using it
how.
smart.
It's a matter of how you use it, right?
How you use it. Use it for good, not evil, people. Use it
for evil.
Increase your knowledge. Oh my goodness. What do we have,
folks? We're out of time. We
are out of time. We had, how many did we do? 6, 5?
We had 5. We did not get to your topic that you wanted to talk today. We'll hit that next week. I don't think that's.
We'll hit it next week. We're not even going to tell you what it is. We're going to make it a surprise next week. Yeah. Oh my goodness, guys! As always, we so appreciate you hanging out with us. Join us in the comments section. Remember, Clay told you in the beginning. We are recording on Wednesday. It was like 3:30. Well, now it's whatever time it is now. We record during the day on Wednesday. We watch with you Thursday nights. We will do another live show coming up soon. We haven't figured out when, but we definitely will. We just really appreciate you being a part of our journey on here. And don't forget to tell us what you think about these topics. Agree, disagree, go for it. Go crazy. Clay, go ahead and close it out.
Hey, folks. So for all the fans of my novel, Keep Moving, Keep Shooting, there is I got a big announcement coming out on Saturday. So pay attention, watch on social media. There's a big announcement coming out. Actually, it's a series of announcements, but one big one. So stay tuned for that. And, maybe we'll talk about that a little bit next week too.
We have to. We absolutely have to. And I'm going crazy. If my family watches, they're like, "How did you keep it quiet? Because you're not good at secrets, Elsa."
Yes.
I'm not saying a word, but I know something you don't know, guys.
Elsa knows. So folks, we'll, again, as always, on Thursday nights, we're in the chat. We're either at Facebook or YouTube or both. And so until next week, keep moving, keep shooting.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Combat veteran Terry Davis left a life of violence for the quiet Midwest prairie, but a terror threat pulls him back into action. In Tampa, he makes allies and enemies as the danger unfolds. Relying on his combat-honed skills, Terry faces a threat far bigger than he imagined, unsure of who to trust. One thing is certain: to survive, he must keep moving, keep shooting.
If you've ever looked around and thought, this isn't normal and it sure isn't biblical, you're not alone. And guess what? You're not crazy, you're discerning. That's why I wrote Truth Bombs and Grace Grenades, a bold, unapologetic book for believers who are done being silent while the world screams lies. From gender confusion to political idolatry, from woke theology to spiritual apathy, we're hitting it all, straight on, straight up, and backed by scripture. This isn't a rage-fueled rant, it's a rally cry. A wake-up call to stop apologizing and start boldly living out the gospel. Whether you're a new believer or a disillusioned disciple trying to find your footing again, this book is for you. It's packed with truth bombs, grace-filled strategies, and practical tools to help you speak truth with love, raise warriors, not worriers, dismantle lies with biblical clarity, and rebuild with grit, grace, and gospel power. The culture doesn't need more compromise. It needs courageous Christians. So if you're ready to push back against the chaos with bold faith and real truth, grab your copy of Truth Bombs and Grace Grenades on May 6, 2025. Let's shake things up with truth and grace.